Hello, I welcome you all with love. And we're going to start with a little bit of a prayer, merging the heart and mind, which is what's needed in the world today. Hashem kud kudashabrihu shinate bi ilu or imulaya jim yuke bavavke bidashum shem kozreo kolam amen. So feel that connection, heart and mind, and that oneness that we need. Now, I'm going to speak about a kind of a funny but serious topic, which is how to eat in a way to give yourself holiness. And it may bug some people, and I'm making a pun because eating bugs, which they had suggested for the protein problems, which is ridiculous, when you realize that spinach is 47% protein, is basically eating bugs dulls your consciousness. And that's what they're kind of suggesting. So we're going to kind of go in that direction. I'm going to give you some quotes from the Bible to help you understand that this was understood a long time ago. But first, we're going to start with a little bit of dancing to celebrate. Okay, here we go. I welcome you all with love, and I'm going to read a quote in the Bible that may give you an idea when the people in the New World Order want to talk about let them eat bugs. And the quote says, "Don't make yourself disgusting by eating the small creatures that breeds." Talking about bugs. "Do not defile yourself with them, because they will make you spiritually insensitive." Okay? And God's saying, "Since I am holy, you must also make yourselves holy and remain sanctified. Therefore, do not defile your souls by eating these bugs that live in the land." And how important it is for us to remain holy. So it's a really important thing to get, that when the New World Order folks are, saying, "Oh, we're having a protein deficiency," which is not the case. And we may have to start eating bugs, and you have bug farms to get protein from. They are actually creating a situation that does, what people have known for thousands of years, dull your consciousness. okay, and take away a certain level of holiness that we as human beings are supposed to create in our lives for ourselves and for those around us. So don't eat bugs, okay? But more than that, the question is, what we eat affects our consciousness. And I write about this in all my different books. Conscious eating, spiritual nutrition, Into the Nothing, Sevenfold Peace. These are all, we talk about nutrition in different ways. But the spiritual nutrition, the nutrition that helps build your spirit, which is what we're talking about here, what builds your spirit is that which activates the consciousness of your brain, that builds brain function, but also body function. And that is more of a plant source only diet. There's plenty of protein to get with the plant source only diet, but more importantly, it is lower on the food chain. So meat, fish, chicken, and dairy all are higher on the food chain, and they have about 95% of the toxins are gathered in the fat of those substances, whereas the plant nutrition, lower on the food chain, has less inherent toxins. And what I mean inherent, it's less toxins picking up from the environment. Obviously, if you do organic, it will be less toxins. But still, the soil, it's still going to be more toxic, So, so what we're saying is you have to kind of minimize the toxins if you don't, as it says in the ancient scriptures, become spiritually insensitive. Now, there's another piece to it, which is the whole idea that what we eat affects our consciousness. So when an animal's about to be killed, it usually has fear and pain and misery and terror, and that goes into its flesh. And so when people eat the flesh of animals, they're taking in the pain, misery, and fear and terror, and it goes into us. It's transferred to us. This is not a new idea. Just like when I'm talking about the biblical eat bugs, it's not a new idea. And so we don't want anything that's going to agitate our mind or create frequencies that make us less functional and less conscious in all that we do. Now, people also have different constitutions, so there's not one food for everyone. It's not like we're a bunch of cows that only eat grass. So some people, they have to explore, I go through it in detail in my books, but they have to explore what their constitution is. Are you a person that needs more protein or less protein? What does that mean? More protein is about 75 grams of protein a day. Less protein is about 35 grams of protein a day. So there's a range. And for people who have less protein, they're going to have a little bit more carbohydrate, obviously, and more, again, I'm going to say plant-based fat, because animal-based fat has a much higher amount of toxins in it. So what we're looking at, again, is how do we minimize the toxins and maximize the energy that we get from our food. That's what we're talking about. And how do we elevate the consciousness? So number one is we have different protein needs. We need to see How do you see that without getting a whole process? It's simple. If you eat a salad and you feel full 4 hours later, I'm going to tell you a person needs less protein. If you eat a salad without a lot of protein in the salad and you're hungry an hour later, you're a person that generally needs more protein. That's how you tell. Trial and error. And if you, some people need a higher protein and fat, and some people need a higher carbohydrate. And again, you actually have to explore it. Generally speaking, what I recommend is 10 to 20% protein in the diet, and fat is 25 to 45%, and complex carbohydrates and vegetables and some fruits are again 25 to 45%. And again, the range varies according to your genetics. There's called chromosome 19. And chromosome 19 actually helps determine what, how do I put it? Helps determine what the ratios are of carbohydrate, protein, and fat that you need. So it's a really important one to be aware of. So that's what I'm, suggesting is kind of tuning into our chromosome 19. Now, I'm kind of joking, but what I am saying is there's a certain amount of trial and error that's part of this figuring out what you're doing. Okay, we don't need a lot of trial and error to know you don't need to eat bugs, even if the New World Order is suggesting that, and they actually have bug farms, to get protein. It's easy to get, spinach, as they say, is 47% protein, and some leafy greens are 45%, and mushrooms are 35%. So there's not really a problem. Meat, fish, and chicken, beef, fish, and chicken, the beef is 18%, chicken is 17% protein, and fish varies in its protein from 17 to 16 to 18%. So really, the vegetables have more protein per pound. However, a pound of vegetables is very big, whereas a little bit of beef, is very concentrated. So we have to balance that out. And what I recommend for people who really have high protein needs is to look at protein concentrates or things like creatine that are very good for brain function and very good for memory, and very highly concentrated protein. Now, I don't mention this often, but you can get that at Dr. Cousens Global, all these kind of protein concentrates, as well as all the other different supplements too. So that's a place you can go to get these things, but they're readily available in those health food stores as well. So the good news, and I think that's the important thing, is that we can have a plant-based only diet, get plenty of protein, get enough fat, and where does that fat come from? Well, you have the long-chain omega-3 fatty acids from yellow algae, which is not animal based, and you have fat in some of the vegetables that are available, as well as some of the plant-based proteins. So you can get plenty of fat. Obviously, the oils have plenty of fat in them. So, the oils that come that are available to us pretty much anywhere. I don't recommend necessarily soy oil, but the other oils are good. Sesame oil is good, and coconut oils are good. So you can readily get enough oil to make your diet work and support your brain function. So those are some of the, I think, ideas that keep us from having to eat bugs. I'm joking, but again, that's what they were, suggesting and moving towards. But I think there's a lot of resistance to it, thank goodness, because it does dull your consciousness and your sensitivity. So what we're talking about diet is it has to be individualized. There seem to be two broad categories. One is, what we call a higher protein and fat diet and lower carbohydrate. And the other one is a little bit higher carbohydrate and lower fat and protein. And it's up to us to trial and error to figure out what is the best diet for us. And you can't read it in a book. I mean, my books I mentioned, Conscious Eating and Spiritual Nutrition, explain this in detail with charts and so forth. But ultimately, it's trial and error. So you have to take the time and energy to figure out what's really the best for you. And the way also you want to proceed is you want to say, what's the best for me at every stage of my life? It's like, children, babies need a lot of milk and a lot of liquid and so forth, and a lot of protein. And then teenagers, more protein, but with age you want a little bit less protein. It's going to vary according to our life cycle as well. But generally, with age, we tend to need a little bit more oil for the brain support. The omega-3s, the long-chain omega-3s, support brain function, memory, and clarity of mind. That's been proven. So that kind of thing is what we're talking about. But at some point, we make a choice. We know that vegans live longer than meat eaters, because they have less toxic load. Meat eaters have twice as much breast cancer, 3 to 4 times as much prostate cancer, and that story goes on and on. But basically, if you're eating meat, fish, chicken, or dairy, you're going to have higher rates of chronic disease. That's part of the consequence. So if you're eating lower in the food chain, the rate of chronic disease, it distinctly goes down. So we're talking about eating to have a higher functioning mind, more clarity of mind, good memory, better health in general, decreasing the chronic diseases, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, stroke. All that is less when you're eating lower on the food chain. And you're eating, I'm going to say, 100% plant-based diet and at least 80% live food. So I bless you that you're able to eat in a way that uplifts your consciousness and keeps you from bugging out in the big picture. So returning to a natural, organic, plant source only diet according to your constitution is going to give you the best overall results for health, well-being, clarity of mind, and spiritual growth. So with that in mind, peace be with you. Yes, we have a retreat in the Dominican Republic where we're a fasting retreat, May 26th through June 3rd. And you're welcome to come. We got a few more days to go. It's pretty full, but we have space for a few more people, so it's good. And for more information, you can visit me at drcousens.com. I also want to say our focus is world peace, and there is a worldpeacemeditation.net. It's 11:30 Eastern Coast time in the U.S., 11:30 East Coast time. So, with that in mind, peace be with you. I want to thank Doug, who's behind the scenes here, doing all this, for his good work in supporting this. So, again, peace be with you. Have a good week.